Every morning, 3 numbers. Sleep, 78. Readiness, 85. Activity, 92. One of them is probably wrong. Here's how to tell which one you should actually trust. By the end of this video, you'll know which Oura metrics are backed by lab-grade science, which ones are educated guesses, and which number you should actually listen to when deciding whether to push hard today or back off. This is educational content, not medical advice. If you have symptoms or health concerns, talk to a qualified professional. When you put the ring on your finger, the hardware itself is fairly simple. Underneath the metal shell are a few key sensors. A PPG sensor, photoplethysmography, shines light into your finger and measures how much is reflected back to infra blood flow. That's how Oura tracks heart rate and stress. An infrared temperature sensor tracks tiny changes in your skin temperature overnight. A 3-dimensional accelerometer tracks movement for activity and sleep. And multi-wavelength lights measure blood oxygen at night, SpO2. The Oura app turns all of that raw sensor data into the scores you see every morning. So let's break down which of those scores you can actually trust. When you open the app, you see 3 main numbers at the top: sleep, readiness, and activity. Most people check their sleep score first. But before we decide whether you should trust it, there's one thing about how Oura calculates this score that most people completely miss. Your sleep score is built from 7 contributors: total sleep time, sleep efficiency, the percentage of time in bed that you're actually asleep, restfulness based on movement, time in REM and deep sleep, sleep latency, how long it takes you to fall asleep, and sleep timing, whether your sleep window lines up with when your body wants to sleep. Those 7 pieces combine into a score from 0 to 100. Simple enough, right? But here's what changes everything, and what most Oura users completely miss. Your night is not judged against some perfect human standard. It's judged against your own last couple of weeks. Oura uses roughly a 14 to 18 day rolling baseline. So if you've been sleeping badly for 2 weeks, one slightly better night can earn you a surprisingly high sleep score. If you've been sleeping great, a normal night might look worse than it feels because your recent baseline is high. That means a sleep score of 85 doesn't mean you had objectively amazing sleep. It means you did pretty well compared to your recent average. So always read the contributors under the score. If total sleep time and efficiency are green, but timing is off, that's a very different story than a night with short sleep and low efficiency. Under the hood, Oura uses your movement, heart rate, breathing pattern, and temperature rhythm to estimate sleep stages. It does not measure brainwaves like a sleep lab. But in a large validation study with 96 people and hundreds of thousands of data points, Oura reached over 91% agreement with gold standard polysomnography for sleep versus wake, and around 90% for REM sleep. Light sleep is less precise, but for long-term trends, the data is strong. So don't obsess over the exact time counts of deep or REM on any one night. Use your sleep score and stage breakdown to spot patterns over weeks, how late nights, heavy dinners, or alcohol shift your averages. 2 more sleep metrics worth knowing: sleep debt and chronotype. Sleep debt looks at the last 2 weeks and asks, compared to how much sleep your body needs, are you caught up or running a deficit? Last night counts for about 15%, and the previous 13 nights make up the rest. The app labels your debt as none, low, moderate, or high. This lines up with decades of research showing that chronic partial sleep loss slowly erodes mental performance, mood, and recovery. Chronotype asks, are you naturally a morning person, an evening person, or somewhere in between? Oura needs about 90 days of data and at least 30 full sleep periods to classify you into one of 6 types. Once it has that, the body clock feature shows your ideal sleep window and how your actual bed and wake times match or fight that rhythm. If your schedule can shift even a little, nudging your sleep closer to that window is one of the most powerful changes you can make. Next, let's move to your cardiovascular signals, because this is where the ring is especially strong. One of Oura's metrics is way more accurate than most people realize, and one is easier to misread than you'd think. Let's start with the strong one. Resting heart rate at night is measured very accurately. Studies comparing Oura to chest strap monitors show correlations above 0.99 for average nightly heart rate. So when your resting heart rate is a few beats higher than normal, you can treat that as a real signal. Heart rate variability, or HRV, is a little more nuanced. HRV measures the tiny differences in time between each heartbeat. Higher variability usually means your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest side, is active and your body is recovered. Lower variability can mean stress, illness, or heavy training load. Oura focuses on a specific HRV metric called RMSSD, which is well established in research as a marker of parasympathetic activity during sleep. Over the whole night, Oura's average HRV values line up well with lab-grade measurements. but in very short windows of just a few minutes, the error can be much larger. So treat nightly HRV trends as reliable, but be skeptical of any single 5-minute HRV snapshot during the day. What actually matters is how these signals get combined into your readiness score. Readiness is Oura's attempt to answer the question, how prepared is your body to handle stress and effort today? To build that number, the algorithm looks at the previous night's sleep, your recent sleep balance, HRV balance, your resting heart rate, how quickly your heart rate settled after you fell asleep, the recovery index, your body temperature deviation, recent training load, and yesterday's movement. Oura doesn't publish the exact weighting of each piece, but independent analyses show the model is reasonably consistent. Importantly, Oura updated the algorithm so that natural menstrual cycle shifts in heart rate and HRV are not automatically treated as poor recovery. So what's the right way to use readiness? Think of it as a well-informed opinion based on your physiology, not as a strict rule. If you wake up feeling great but your readiness is a bit low because you had one late night, you might still train but cap the intensity. If you feel terrible and your readiness is also very low after several nights of poor sleep and elevated temperature, that's a clearer sign to back off. On the recovery side, temperature and blood oxygen add extra context. Oura doesn't show your skin temperature in degrees. Instead, it tracks how far above or below your typical baseline you are. Because skin temperature can swing quite a lot, it turns out to be a very sensitive early warning signal. Repeated nights of higher than normal temperature often show up when your body is fighting an infection, overloaded with training, or under heavy stress. Nights where your temperature is lower than usual and your resting heart rate is also lower often line up with strong recovery. Blood oxygen, or SpO2, is tracked at night using red and infrared light. The ring estimates your average oxygen saturation and looks for drops or increased variability that might suggest disturbed breathing. In controlled lab testing, Oura's sensor reached error levels low enough to meet the same accuracy standards used for medical pulse oximeters. However, the consumer ring is still classified as a wellness device, so treat SpO2 as a high-level indicator. If you consistently see low values or lots of disturbances, that's a good reason to talk to a clinician about proper testing. Before we wrap up, it's important to be honest about when Oura's data is unreliable or even counterproductive. The sensors depend on good blood flow and solid contact with your skin. If your hands are very cold, the PPG sensor may not see enough blood flow to measure. That leads to gaps in heart rate, HRV, and stress graphs. Finger tattoos or a ring that's too loose can cause similar problems. High-intensity interval training is another weak spot. Rapid heart rate swings and lots of hand movement make it harder for the ring to keep up beat by beat. The post-workout summaries are usually good enough for trends, but they're not as precise as a chest strap during hard intervals. There's also a psychological risk. If you start living by your scores instead of using them as context, the tech can backfire. Used the wrong way, these scores can actually make your sleep worse. A low sleep score can make you feel tired all day, even if you woke up feeling okay. A slightly weak readiness score can push you to skip a workout you would have enjoyed and handled just fine. There's a term for becoming overly fixated on perfect sleep metrics, orthosomnia. It's when you become so focused on improving your sleep scores that the anxiety about your data actually makes your sleep worse. If you notice that your mood is following your scores more than your actual sensations, if you feel tense opening the app every morning, that's your sign to step back. In that case, you might deliberately stop checking the app every morning and instead review your trends once or twice a week. Your body's own signals still matter more than any algorithm. So here's the bottom line. Sleep score, highly accurate for tracking trends over time, but remember it's judging you against your recent baseline, not some perfect standard. Resting heart rate, extremely accurate. Trust this metric when it's higher than normal. HRV, reliable for nightly averages, less reliable for short daytime snapshots. Readiness score, a well-informed opinion, not a strict rule. Use it as input, not as a command. Temperature and SpO2, great early warning signals, but not diagnostic tools. If you use Oura as a long-term mirror of your lifestyle, rather than a judge of your day, the data becomes much more useful and much less stressful. In part 2, we'll dive into the features most people overlook. Activity score and why Oura actually penalizes you for training every day. Daytime stress and what it's really measuring, and how to use trends and tags to run experiments on your own body. Link to part 2 is in the description and the end screen. And if you're already using Oura, comment with which metric confuses you the most right now. That helps us decide what to decode for you in future videos. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep it smart, keep it simple, and keep it healthy.